what business do these guys from Canada have coming down and building a 1 million square foot headquarters for Google in New York City? And yet we did it. So we're here celebrating 15 years. Like, who would have thought that on January 19th, 2011, that we'd be here 15 years later in the position that we're in with 350 people and working on some of the most important projects in Canada and working in multiple sectors, transportation and envelope and structural. It's a pretty incredible story. And I mean, part of the reason that all of you are here because you represent some milestones that really marked the successful leaps that we've made toward what we've achieved. Barry, you were among the first three, you and Dave.
3 guys on a laptop.
3 guys on a laptop.
When we started, I couldn't imagine 15 years.
Right.
I mean, would I still be working? Would we still have a firm? I mean, it was somewhat risky, I think.
When we started Intuitive, all of us came from a place where we're working on the big complex projects, the ones that really got our juices flowing, and the hope was that we could continue doing that kind of work at Entuitive. And the only reason that we could achieve success like that is through the client relationships that we had and the trust that we had built with those clients. And you take that step to start a new company hoping that you can achieve that. And I think you had an extremely validating experience in how you were able to start Manhattan West just 3 days after we started Intuitive. It's a pretty incredible story.
We had a pretty good relationship, and a lot of respect. We thought that we had innovative ideas on our previous projects. It literally was the Monday of the first week, he called me up and said, can you get to New York? And I'm going like, we have no way how are we gonna finance a trip to New York? My visa, of course.
Right.
So we popped down there, didn't even know what project he was talking about. And he brought us into Brookfield's boardroom and he said, got this really interesting problem. There's a design, I don't like it, come up with an idea. And he said, well, do you think you can get an idea? I said, oh yeah, no, just think of the bridges in the Alps. He said, what are you talking about? I said, well, they built bridges in the Alps. We can build over 16 rail tracks, operating rail tracks at Penn Station, the same way as they build a bridge in the Alps. We've used every friend in the book. Mm-hmm. We had the client, we talked to some builders, we talked about other architects that weren't even on the jobs. We mapped it all out. We went to New York, and Jim White was the guy's name. He said, yeah, it sounds good.
That's pretty incredible. Like that you had built enough trust with the client that on day 3 of a startup company, 3 guys on a laptop, as you said, they were entrust you with such a complex project. And you were part of the founding group too, Sean. What was it about the story that got you excited?
I remember a chat with Andy Bergman in the early days. He was sort of a coach on the process, and I remember him saying to me, you got lots of choices in your career, but if you believe in what they're doing and you know and trust them and you believe in yourself, this would be a great opportunity for you, and you get the trust of the people that we were going to be working together with was the number one thing.
Thinking back, like all through my career, I wanted to design beautiful buildings that made a difference. Like that alignment right out of the early days was pretty key, right? Like we hadn't established our, vision statement or values or anything like that. We just knew it, right? And knowing that we wanted to tackle the really challenging work and apply this creativity that I think is like a very strong differentiator in the industry. I think there's a gap in the competitor space in the Calgary and Toronto, at least when we started, that allowed us to take advantage of that. So it was like this once in a lifetime opportunity to start something and really, accelerated out of the gates in a way that I don't think any of us expected, which is pretty cool.
Also, actually, coincidentally, I signed my offer or contract to come to Intuitive on your first anniversary.
Oh.
So I was in the Calgary office on that day
2012.
on January 19th, 2012.
I was concerned that it was going to be like 10 years and we're going to close shop. We're sold out to some multinational, but I didn't want to do that anymore. I wanted to start a company, bring in people that were younger, have them develop their technical skills, their client skills, work on exciting projects, and have some fun.
And we will probably talk about this a little bit later, but your perspective of joining was a little different because you joined through an acquisition of a firm that Mike had a relationship with the founder for many years. And that was in 2019.
We were a smaller firm, Brown & Company Engineering. We were about 20 people when I joined. And one of the things that was so interesting and exciting about Entuitive was that culture, and you could see it right from the start. This interest and ambition to do bigger things without becoming too corporate, this focus on technical and creative engineering, the client first piece, like it just, despite the scale difference, meshed so well. And we talked about it being an integration and where the people would go and where the people would land and what it would look like for our two firms to come together. And resounding success, at least from our perspective. And I didn't really realize it at the time, but even when talking to other people about it now, they say like, oh, we were acquired, what did that look like? It was amazing. We had zero attrition. Like, when do you actually ever hear about an acquisition resulting in zero attrition? And not only that, people have continued to grow within the firm and be promoted and buy into it and are now leading their own different teams and own different disciplines within Entuitive, all within the Entuitive way.
Yeah, right at the beginning, we talked a lot about acknowledging that we had this opportunity to develop a culture from the scratch, right? It was that moment that I had this thought about one company, right? One company, it stuck with us to today. One company is still strong. It's defining in the way we operate our culture, how our leadership gets together twice a year in person to create those bonds, relationship bonds that they take back to their offices.
I remember when I first started and you were explaining one company, I was employee 23, so it was already going, right?
Right.
I remember even at that point, it was, can we maintain it, right?
Right.
We're currently doing it in 2 offices, and then we get to 50 people, and you're like, oh, is it going to be hard to maintain it at that size? And then when you add another office, and so I think at 15 years, it's really great to see that we have maintained it.
Yeah.
It's the same ethos it ever was. All of the ways that it works are the same as we employed at 23 people that I can speak to. And I think it really comes down to that, like the people we've added to the company. I always articulate what one company is, and I always say, I know other companies say they're one company as well, but we really do it.
And it's so important to what you're describing about like applying creativity. Like, you get creativity from anywhere in the company, no barriers, no silos.
You know, every year for several years, one company was the main topic of discussion, and a lot of people would raise like, how are we going to maintain it as we grow? How are we going to maintain it as we have new offices? And yet, every year, with the same worry because we had maintained it another year, right?
Right.
One company is the #1 value at Entuitive that people really respond to and kind of reiterate on a constant basis. So
I joined in June of 2013. So by that time, the firm was already a whopping 65 people, right? So a whole host of people there, but there was nothing really on the transportation side, right? So you wanted to help you move into that area of the business. And what was exciting for me was the fact that, I mean, I'd worked with most of you, the majority of my career. It was exciting to be able to try to start something. We coined a phrase, doing transportation the Intuitive way. It was really to reflect exactly that. It was this out-of-the-box thinking. That's really what attracted me. And I have to say, like when I joined, what struck me the most was the energy in the company. It was a very young company, lots of very smart and energetic young people. You feed off that, and it just created this energy in the company, this excitement in the company. It was really something to be part of.
When we're talking about sectors, healthcare comes to mind as a sort of a sector where we've punched above our weight. I mean, I think we started to do a little bit of work in healthcare shortly after you joined. Rob Ellis kind of joined at a similar time to you, Mike. And since then, like, I mean, we've gone from that to projects like QE2, $4 billion, one of the biggest, if not the biggest healthcare project in Canada, where we're the lead structural engineering.
the portfolio of healthcare work, really from Vancouver to St. John's and Halifax, is really quite something. It's a place that we're doing a lot of work, and we really enjoy the projects, and there's a real sense of accomplishment for kind of creating buildings that have such an importance to the fabric of society. And the first one was Peel Memorial Hospital, which is like a good-sized hospital under the P3 model, and then shortly after that was Cordalucci Vaughan Hospital, which was a very, very large hospital just north of Toronto and Vaughan. And after that, we've just been growing this healthcare portfolio kind of across the country.
I was very lucky that when we started building Envelope in February of 2012, that we had just started work on the second tower of 8th Avenue Place. And the client at Hines trusted in what I had provided over the years and was willing to commute that project to Intuitive. And similarly, David Thompson, who started in Toronto at the same time, he brought over the CHUM Mega Hospital project in Montreal as well. Similarly, just built the trust with the client, and they knew that we would perform. Yeah.
When you combine the deep client relationships built on years of trust with this entrepreneurial spirit that really kicked us off when we started Intuitive, and this sort of this collective thinking that anything is possible, you end up pursuing some work that the outside sort of community would think they have no business pursuing or even completing. And we've called that punching above our weight.
Oh, how could we not talk about Center Block?
It's a massive consortium that's been charged with basically digging down underneath the Parliament building and put in 3 new basements and put a base isolation system to protect the Parliament building from earthquakes. They were interested in us because of our work on Crosstown, where we had to underpin the existing subway structures and the existing heritage bus terminal. And it said, hey, those projects went really well, and we think you have the expertise to do this. That's why we get up in the morning. This is a project that probably some firms may have found maybe too risky to take on, but we look at it as an opportunity and a challenge, and it's kind of stuff that really excites us.
That's one of the things that I really like about this firm, is that we will take advantage of opportunities and grow to help our clients, but the other side of it is to also create opportunity for our people. I think that's very important.
Yeah, definitely. And you make a good point about the growth geographically too, right?
Yeah.
Vancouver was an early expansion from the original Calgary and Toronto in 2011.
Yeah.
Since then, we've opened offices in Edmonton, and we have an office in Ottawa at the same time, which you were instrumental in starting. Maybe tell a little bit about that experience.
It's interesting when I was also reflecting on the key moments. A lot of what you said resonates, and it also goes back to this entrepreneurial spirit and how we've been able to maintain it. And so at the time, we'd been looking at an acquisition for transportation in Ottawa that eventually, didn't come to fruition, but we were looking at it, and I had made the statement, what's the worst that could happen? This could be great. And so I did, and it was fantastic. And the way that our clients supported us there, the way that our one company culture really came to life in terms of other offices supporting, the numbers of opportunities that it unlocked for other offices in terms of clients and projects and different even sectors. And 3 years in, we're approaching 30 people and continuing to grow, and it's been fantastic.
We've talked about the Intuitive way. More recently, it's almost like, well, what is it? What is it that differentiates? How do we approach this a little differently, and how do we sort of codify that so we can communicate it to others? And really, it's deep understanding of what our clients' needs are. So that empathy that we talk about, and the toolbox that we have at our disposal, the resources, the people, the solutions, the technicals, prowess that we have, and linking those two things together creatively, one of our sort of founding tenets, to create amazing solutions.
So we're working on Portland bridges for Waterfront Toronto. We offered to Waterfront, well, why don't we go out and tender the steel bridges early, so that we can get the fabricator on board early, we can work through the shop drawing process earlier, we can embed all of the erection requirements into the final design of it, and so it would save you 4 months or so off the schedule. So even though the bridges weren't really the target, the project needed help. So it's sort of thinking, as you mentioned, it's thinking about what the client really needs and how we can actually help that.
All right. Well, 15 years in, what excites you, Barry, about the future of Intuitive?
I think that there's a group here that has the technical skills, the chops, or whatever it is, and the business acumen that we're not plateauing.
Yeah.
We're on this exponential curve. I don't know what the equation is, but it's an interesting one.
We're not done, right? That we never seem to be satisfied in a good way, and we're always hungry for more. So I'm excited for what office is next, what service is next, what country is next. So that's really what gets me up in the morning.
Cool.
Similar to Mike, it's the momentum, right? We started with this idea of one company, and that we could be a national firm, and that we could hire amazing people and do amazing work, and that was the ambition, and we've been doing it for 15 years, and our people are highly engaged. And so I think just continuing to build on the momentum, I kind of didn't know we'd be 350 people at 15 years, and I think just keeping going on that is the most exciting part for me.
Yeah.
They'd set it up as a legacy firm, even in terms of establishing who the leadership would be, who the management would be, what the board would look like. And there's always this, we're entrepreneurs and we're building a legacy, and I think it changes entirely how you think of the business, how you grow the business, how people show up every day, what they're contributing to. There's that sense of loyalty and commitment and belonging and passion and ownership. And I'm excited to see how that continues for the next 15 years.
I look at what we've done over the years and where we are now, and I'm just amazed at the quality of the people that we have in place, the leadership, and the people that are coming up that are future leaders. It's just the strength that I see there in the company, very exciting, and I just see that from a people perspective, right? What's in place, and I look forward to what's coming down the road.
As a leadership team, we recognized a couple of years ago that how we've achieved success so far is not necessarily how we're going to achieve success going forward. So let's really intentionally think about what choices we need to make in order to ensure that we're a legacy and it can continue for the next 15 years. And we've done a great job of that. And the team that we've got is so engaged. And I said at the beginning, it almost felt like a dream team when we kicked off Intuitive 15 years ago on Monday. And it kind of feels like that still, like the only reason I'm confident in the future and our ability to achieve these choices that we've made is because we have an amazing group of people. We're aligned with the values that we had at the beginning, and we still have that entrepreneurial spirit, and the future is bright.